I'm going right out on a limb here and say, yeah, I think if New Zealand bowl first, they'll bowl India out in a day on the first day of that Test match. I know there was banter going on between Trent and Rohit in our nets about the championship final, and Trent swinging one back in, saying, "I'm going to get you out LBW," and Rohit would have a laugh with them. You had someone to bat for your life. Pujara is that sort of guy because he's just prepared to go out there and bat for 10 hours if it's need be for his teams.
Shane Bond, thank you so much for taking time out to speak to me today. I'm just going to start by asking you about your national team. New Zealand, the #1 ranked test team in the world, but they do tend to still go under the radar when they're sort of not playing international cricket, right? I mean, conversations mostly tend to surround Australia, England and maybe India. Do you feel that in a way that's also being changed by this current team, based solely on their performances on the field?
It's just natural that Australia, England, India in particular get most of the TV time, particularly when it comes to the big tournaments and the favouritism. I think New Zealand have always tended to fly under the radar a little bit. And actually, most of the guys would say there's nothing they can do to control the narrative in the press. They just get on and do their business. And particularly in the last couple of years, I think New Zealand are getting the credit that they're not just, an underdog or a lucky. They're actually, this team is a very, very good cricket team, a very tough team to beat. And they deserve their spot there. So cricket's on a real buzz here, and I think there's a genuine excitement about this game coming up that New Zealand could do something special, and to win the Test Championship would be unbelievable for a country of our population, resources, and player depth. So it's pretty cool.
Okay, I'm going to get to the Indian players in a bit, but let's just talk about Devon Conway. Made his debut for New Zealand at the age of 29. Earlier this June, scored a double century in that game, and it was just so great to see so many current, former Kiwi players going on social media to congratulate him. Everybody seemed to know a lot about his journey, and everybody seemed to genuinely be happy, for him to have, struggled so much, and then, all his struggle culminating in that one big double century on debut.
One of the nicest guys you could possibly meet, and he's just dominated domestic cricket. And then when I came back from the IPL, my first day out, I went to the New Zealand-Australia T20 game, which was in my hometown of Christchurch, and Devon made 99. Played unbelievably well, and really every time he's played brilliantly. So I think there's a recognition, obviously, of the journey he's taken from to nationalise in New Zealand from South Africa, and how challenging. He left with nothing, started with nothing, and has worked his way to where he is now. And the fact that he's just a hell of a good bloke and sort of fitted in seamlessly. And I think everyone's just delighted for him that he's done so well. And all of a sudden, he's just added to the depth that New Zealand cricket's got.
Rohit Sharma, you both, of course, work a lot together in the Mumbai Indians franchise. You've spoken at length also about, how you love his batting. But, he's going to switch formats now. He's going to be in the India Whites. You feel, he's got still a lot left in him in the test format?
Yeah, I love Rohit Sharma. He's just a legend. I love having good banter and jokes and a hug with him when I see him. So he's one of my favourite people to be around. And he's my favourite batter to watch. He's got all the shots, unbelievable player. I think, he was the difference in that last series, England versus India, in India on those wickets that were so hard to bat on. He came out and was phenomenal in that series. And he's a real danger player for New Zealand because not only is he's got all the shots in the world, but he can take a game away from you because he's hugely experienced. But he'll be one guy who'll go out and just take the game on from ball one in a final. And his record in big tournaments and in big games is ridiculous. So I know there was banter going on between Trent and Rohit in our nets about the championship final, and Trent swinging one back in, saying, "I'm going to get you out LBW," and Rohit would have a laugh with them. But he's just a great player. And people always talk about his red ball game, but I think it's just going up and up and up. And he's a critical player for New Zealand to get rid of early if they want to win this Test match.
I have to ask about Chiteshwar Pujara. Didn't have the best of tours of Australia, but you never really take Pujara lightly, especially in this format, right? He's definitely, according to you, one of the players to watch in this one match.
My first experience in the IPL was bowling to Chiteshwar in the nets. And I'd never seen him before because he was a 20-year-old local player. And I came in and bowled, and was bowling quite quick. And I thought, who's this bloke? Gee, he can bat. And he just seems to have time, and he's not flustered, and he just flicks it off his legs. And that's been him for the last 10 years, except he scored a mountain of runs. I think what Pujara does best is blunt attacks. He's not going to take the game away from you by scoring fast, and that's why Rohit Sharma is a different class, because not only can he stay there, he can score so fast. So I don't think New Zealand will mind as long as he doesn't score runs at a strong rate. They'll be comfortable enough to try and chip away around him. What they will be concerned about is he bats for 6 hours, because if he bats for 6 hours, India are going to score 300, 400 runs. So there's no one better and more of a temperament for a big game than just keeping the ball out. Or if you had someone to bat for your life, Pujara is that sort of guy, because he's just prepared to go out there and bat for 10 hours if it's need be for his team. So he's a great player with a great test record. And that Indian top six is, it's a formidable top six. The only good thing from New Zealand's point of view is they've had no cricket under their belt in terms of real match play. So that's the one bonus for us.
Jasprit Bumrah, I want to talk about now. He's of course spoken at length about the kind of influence you've had on his career. You both also have conversations, when he's on international duty. And if you do, actually, what would the kind of conversation be right now when he's getting set to, play this one-off World Test Championship final, having not played any international cricket for over a month?
We've talked before series in India, played in Australia. We've talked around a whole lot of different series across different formats about what it means. And how to prepare and stuff. What advice would I give him? I think he needs I think the Indian bowlers probably need a conversation with their captain, particularly their fast bowlers. They've come off no cricket, so real clarity about how long their spells are, because it's going to be hard work when you've had no competitive cricket for so long. Is how do we keep the bowlers fresh, keep them coming back for 5, potentially 6 days? I think the conversations for all the bowlers also in such a big game would be the same you'd have in a T20 game, is try to forget about the result, focus on how you want to attack each batsman, and just focus on doing that well. And if you do that and you work as a collective group, then you've got enough quality as a bowling attack that you can have success. So that sort of process line, what's my plan? How do I attack that plan? How long am I going to do it for? And then how do I reassess that in the game as well? They're the sort of conversations I'd be having with him leading into a test match like this.
I know I can't make you pick a favorite for the World Test Championship.
I'm going to pick a favorite for you.
Okay, I'm not going to ask you to pick the obvious favorite. I'm just, because we, like you mentioned as well, and we know the match can go into a 6th day as well. How many days do you see the match finishing in?
I don't know. I hear a little bit of stuff that there's some rain around in Southampton, which may have an influence on the team. I think the toss will determine a lot of that. I think if New Zealand win the toss and can bowl, I don't think the game will go 5 days. If India win the toss and bowl first, I think the game will go a touch longer. I think the one advantage India have is they have a better balanced bowling attack. I think they'll play 2 spinners and 3 fast bowlers. And so even if New Zealand bowl first, if India can bat well, they'll set themselves up to have a real crack at the game. I think New Zealand, if they bowl first, will bowl India out for 200 in English conditions. That's why because they've played 2 test matches and they've had a far better preparation, that's why I think New Zealand are favourites for this game.
I'm going to ask Star Sports to get us a feedback, a reaction to this one after the first 2 days.
Yeah, there you go. I'm going right out on a limb here and say, yeah, I think if New Zealand bowl first, they'll bowl India out in a day on the first day of that test match.
We shall see. Thank you, Shane Bond. Thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure. Thank you.